Hi there. I hope everybody's doing well. Still gearing up for the holidays. I am going to try another pour inspired by Melly D. I had done two. One was called Heavenly. The other was called Camellia. And she used Liquitex Pouring Medium. And the key component that she says that is the cause of the reaction that happens is on her white, she mixed half and half white Artist Loft Flow Acrylic with the DecoArt Americana Satin Enamel in white. So I did that, and I had two lovely pours that I did that I was really pleased with. So then I wanted to try it with some metallics and maybe just a hint of black. But I really wanted to see how the metallics would do this. So that's my experiment today. And I've got I think it's an 18-inch square canvas. And I will be using Liquitex Pouring Medium. And I'm doing a super large cup of white. So I'll have lots and lots of it. And then my other colors will be in probably about 7 to 9 ounce cups, and I'll just put basically about a tablespoon or so of this. But I put a lot more in the large cup, so I did probably 3 or 4 tablespoons. But she said that's not really what causes the reaction. It's more so the satin enamel paint. And so I went to Hobby Lobby today, and they were out of it, but they had the Americana Outdoor Living white, and I read the back of it, and they really read identically as far as a satin finish. Well, this says satin, this says eggshell, but usually eggshell is considered a satin finish. So I'm kind of thinking that it might do the same thing. So I have that for later to do on another pour. So anyway, I'm going to use the satin enamel, 50-50 with the Artist Loft Flow Acrylic. And I put in my Liquitex Pouring Medium, and then I add water. And with this recipe, you actually add quite a bit of water because I'm using tube paints, and tube paints are very thick. And so you're putting just a tablespoon in the other colors of pouring medium, and so you have to add quite a bit of water to get it to a nice fluid consistency of like thick cream or honey pouring off a stick, or I would even say kind of like a thin Elmer's glue. If it drips, it's too watery, and if it's sticking to your stick and not really falling off very well, then it's way too thick. So that actually looks pretty good. I'm going to put one more little bit of water in, but I'm going to speed through the rest of the colors. I just wanted you to know the recipe that I'm doing today, because normally I do a 1-to-1 ratio with Floetrol, and since the last experiment kind of went really well, better than I planned, I just decided I would go ahead and do another one and try the metallics just to see how beautiful they might turn out. So I'm going to use DecoArt. This is brass, vintage brass. I have some Renaissance brown. I've got a little bit of Artist Loft bronze that I'm going to use, and I have DecoArt tin, which is kind of a pewter color, I guess you would say, but it's extreme sheen, so it's going to have a nice bit of metallic to it. And I've got the black, lamp black, mixed 1-to-1, so I'm going to maybe put that in. I'm not real sure yet. So I'm going to mix everything up, and I'm not going to talk, and I'll be back shortly. Okay, so I'm pretty much ready to roll here. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so you can see the full edge of the canvas. And so I need at least 12 ounces of paint to cover this canvas. So I've got a larger cup and I am not sure what size it is, but I'm sure that it's more than 12 because this one is a 12 ounce and you see the difference. So this is at least, probably a 16 ounce. So I want to get this almost full in order to cover the canvas, and then if I have enough paint left, I'll do a second pour over the top like I did before. So I'm going to, and there are no silicone or OGX products added to any of this, so we're not adding oil at all. And I'm going to do the gradient version where you kind of pour to the side of the cup. So that's the bronze color. This is the, what color is that? Renaissance brown. So I'm going to do a little bit of tin here. And I'm going to put a little bit of black in, but very little. Some brass. A little more tin. Some bronze. And then end with a little bit of brass. So that leaves me paints left for the second pour if I need to do it over the top. So this is going to be poured kind of like in a tree ring fashion, which just means you pour in the center of your canvas and it will spread out on its own. I may not have put enough white in it, to be honest. I'm not really sure. Okay. You kind of hold your breath when you're doing tree ring pours. I don't know what it is about it, but it's still very pretty inside that cup, even when it's layered. So that's what you call a gradient pour, where you pour kind of with your cup on a little bit of a slant so that your paints layer on top of each other instead of sinking down like in a traditional dirty pour. When you pour your colors, they kind of sink down into the other colors below. This one you're trying to get them to layer more. I'm already liking it. I don't have a clue what it's going to look like when I spread it out, but we're going to see here. And I'm kind of wondering if I need to put anything around the edges. I may just put a little bit of white in the corners. Whoa. I did not mean to lose my white there. And I probably will have plenty of paint, but if you're like me, you sometimes question whether it's going to flow the way it should. So you can also take your paint that you've spilled over the edge and scoop it up with a palette knife or something like that. It's always good to have a palette knife around. My little oval palette knife is my little favorite tool to use. So that way I can salvage this white and not lose it all. So here we go. I remembered that Melly D kind of circled, now that I think about it, she kind of circled her canvas a little bit. So I'm going to try to do that since I didn't do it at first. Because then you end up kind of getting more of a squarish shape. And somebody asked on the Heavenly one and all why that I did a second layer. And I did it because Melly D did it, and she has the most beautiful pours that she does. But as you see here, the white kind of takes over, which gives it that kind of cloudy, ethereal kind of look. So you kind of need, I think, that second layer just to kind of make that color pop back out again. And you know, if this dries very soft and subtle, it can always be a background too. Like I didn't put a color in like she had a deep green. And when I did Heavenly, I had like a Prussian blue color, and then I added the Rose Madder on the Camellia one. So as you see, there are no deep colors. Well, they're deep metallics, but they didn't come out deep in this pour. So I'm just real curious to see how this kind of pans out. But the white may have eaten up all the metallics, I'm not sure. But maybe that's where the white is meant to pop back through on the second round. So I don't think I really even needed to add the white on the corners. So since my corners, whoops, put my finger in it. That was the wrong color. Put a clean finger in and get some lighter. Like I said, sometimes you second guess yourself on the amount of paint you need. And I also made this really fluid, a lot more fluid than I typically do. But I also wanted it to flow fairly easily. So that is why I made it thicker as well. And I'm fighting trying to get a cold. I've been taking emergency and all that. So if I sound a little froggy, that's why. So the second round, I am going to use a different cup that's clean. And I don't need nearly as much paint. So this time I'm going to start with the dark colors, black, the chocolate, and I poured that down into it. I meant to layer it. So the little white, the brass, the bronze, and the tin. All right, so we're going to do it again. So unfortunately ended up squarish, which was not my intention. I do like the area that has the black in it though. So I wasted a lot of paint underneath. I know that. But I like the cloudy effect of it. So some beautiful paint underneath. I'm hoping I can preserve that. I made a huge mess dripping. I'm just letting it sit, and cells are forming, which I like all that. So I'm real curious to see what will rise, what will cell up, and that kind of thing. And that's one thing you do not know until it dries. And I always post the dry picture at the end of the video because I want you to see the true results of the painting, not the wet results, because the wet results are not the same as the dry results. So I'm pretty pleased. This part is the most lovely to me. So I'm just looking at it, admiring it. I'm going to wait to see what happens. But more and more cells are forming, which is kind of cool. And so if you recall, there'll be deeper colors underneath here, and I want to see if they rise. So this proves that you don't have to put silicone or OGX in your paint for cells. It's a different kind of cell type formation, but nonetheless you get cells. It's interesting how they're overtaking even the brassy area. I'm going to let it sit for a few before I turn the camera off, just so you can kind of watch it change through a time lapse. So I have gone away for about an hour and just let it sit. 30 minutes to an hour, I don't know, somewhere in between editing videos. And that metallic is popping through the white, so the lines are starting to show those metallic pieces of it, which is really cool. The black has been covered up, the white is popping through, and so it's doing its thing, which is always so fascinating. So I'm pretty pleased with this. I'm going to move it off this puppy pad, but I wanted to show you up close. No silicone in this at all. And So here's some metallics there on the edges. So I don't know if you can see, there's some shimmer in those little fine lines of the tree rings that the metallics are shimmering through. So it's really a beautiful piece. It's very neutral. It would be beautiful on like a deep gray or taupe colored wall or something like that. But I'm going to put it aside to dry. But I'm very pleased with it. I was kind of hoping more of the darker colors would pop through, but they got covered up, and that's okay. So I might pour it in a different order the next time, who knows. But I hope you enjoyed it. So I have some pretty puddles going on. I'm going to try to salvage this as much as possible. It definitely leaked all over my tray, but I'm not worried about that. So I'm just going to let this sit and dry. I'm zooming back out. But anyway, thank you for watching, and check out all the links below, and keep on watching, and I'll keep bringing more exciting videos to you and try to be as creative as possible. Y'all have a great week. Thank you. Bye-bye.